healing hands around her son Brett and Jeremy. Also, Father, thank you for your son and the salvation he gives to all who believe. And help us to remember that just because we can't see it with our eyes does not mean it does not exist. Be with each one of our families during this holiday season. In your son's precious name, amen.
Amen. The workshop, board meeting agenda workshop will begin. Welcome citizens of Clay County in the room and online. If there are any questions that anyone has, feel welcome to ask us in the next few moments after we've gone through the agenda. We have a lot to accomplish this morning, so Mr. Roski, if you would begin.
Thank you. Good morning to all. I just wanted to announce that this is the meeting in which we celebrate the holidays, and that's what all of these things on the tables are. I feel like I'm looking through the jungle at a couple of board members, but it's always nice to recognize the work of others, celebrate our accomplishments, and the spirit of the season is alive and well in Clay County District Schools. So I thank everyone for that. So the agenda here for January 7th, 2021. C1 is the minutes of the workshop, the special meeting and the regular meeting on December 10th. C2 is the personnel consent agenda. You'll see within the personnel consent agenda, if you recall, we are rewriting all job descriptions within the district. This month it's transportation's turn, so you'll notice that all job descriptions for transportation are listed within the personnel consent agenda.
Excuse me, Mr. Frosty,
Did
is
you call
that
it
number
C2?
C5 or C2?
C2, school board member out
Okay,
of
because
county
I
travel
have
expense.
something on C5.
I have
so that's why.
C2, but
I had the personal consent
Right.
agenda
I'll
C3.
just go by the actual number themselves. So C1 was the minutes.
Correct?
Yeah.
C2, I have school board member out of county travel.
There you go.
Okay. Any questions about that? C3 is now personnel consent agenda. All transportation job descriptions are there.
I have a question.
Sure.
Page 48 and 49 was about, it's a job description about bus trainer. One of the things I didn't see, and you know, of course, obviously they had everything about proper driving and all that kind of stuff, but I think probably if we could put in a piece about behavior management and procedures and relationships with parents, because I know, you know, when there were bus drivers who, my gosh, just did a phenomenal job, but they knew how to work with our kids and all, and I think that's an important piece. You know, you can drive great, but I know
behavior management.
yeah, some kind of behavior management, relationships with their parents, because, you know, they're the first employee typically that sees our children, and so to make sure that they kind of have a good start each time. I know when my child was 7, I took him to Chuck E. Cheese, and we drove from Keystone into Orange Park, and there were 6 of them in the back of a van. And when I got to Goldhead State Park, I pulled over about 2 miles from my house, and I said, "Happy birthday, son. But we're never having a party again where I have to drive you." So I get it. So
Okay, we can certainly do that. So we're up to number 4, which is academic services out-of-state travel. Number 5, which is the affiliation agreement with FSU College of Education. Number 6 is the affiliation agreement with Indian River State College.
Mr. Superintendent,
Yes, sir.
the attachment that's to that at this point is not what's actually going to be approved. It was submitted to me late. I have rewritten that contract with Indian River State College. We've resubmitted it back to Indian River. There are no substantive changes that make it any different other than it clarifies a lot of terms. So there will be a different agreement that's attached before the cutoff date with board chair's permission.
Thank you, sir. Number 7 is proposed allocation changes. There's none at this point. You know, I don't need to say that we'll work collaboratively with CCA with the movement of teachers as a result of the second semester. And when all of that occurs on January 20th is the first day for students. More information forthcoming, but it will impact, you know, when you move over 4,000 students, you're also going to wind up moving some personnel in the process of doing that. So there will be changes, And if those changes don't make this agenda, they would make the subsequent agenda. Number 8 is the monthly financial reports. Number 9 is deletion of certain item reports. Number 10 is the final completion of the Building 1 West End renovations. Number 11 is pre-qualification of contractors. Okay, that brings us to the discussion agenda. So legislative priorities, at the last board meeting, it was suggested that we add students and teachers. So there is a couple of lines that I would call your attention to that are different from the previous one. It's added under state assessments and testing. It says state assessment scores shall not be reflected in teachers' exam scores for the 2021 school year, thus holding teachers harmless. And then students' placement for the 2021-22 school year shall not be dependent upon state assessments, as a way of incorporating those ideas that were espoused at the board meeting on December 10th. So I call that to your
I like that, thank you.
Yes.
attention. You're welcome.
Great.
So D2, there is no special action. D3 is the contract that was postponed to the next agenda item. During the meeting, there was 12 questions that were posed. We'll get the answers to those 12 questions to all board members here within the next day or two. Staff's working on answering them. There was 9 days between the previous workshop and the meeting on December 10th, and now we have an additional 17 days, so I feel like we can answer any questions that need to be answered prior to the January 7th board meeting. And with that, Madam Chair, that's the end of the agenda review.
Awesome. Any questions?
I do have
Sorry?
one other item. You might have heard that we have reached tentative agreement with CCA in regard to contract for our teachers. I'm asking that the board puts that on the board agenda for January 7th, so there'll be an additional item relative to that. I would just like to say just how proud we are to reach tentative agreement with CCA. The tentative agreement recognizes the contributions of veteran teachers while still adhering to the statutory requirements of House Bill 641. Under the House bill, if you recall, the district's able to move the teacher starting pay to $44,867, and all teachers will receive a minimum salary increase of $1,200. Due to the funding outlook as a result of the recent executive order, the district's able to recognize these veteran teachers. The district is committed to supporting all employees while remaining fiscally responsible. So I'd just like to thank the board, for their leadership on this issue. So important, especially during these times, that we honor and recognize all of our employees, and I'm very, very appreciative to the board, in this endeavor. And so without any comment, I'll add that to the agenda. So you'll be voting on that at the January 7th meeting.
Great.
All right, thank you. Now I'm done.
Got it. And the teachers will have the opportunity to vote on that before.
The teachers will.
Question from Ms. Kidwell.
Not
Yeah,
before the 7th, not before your meeting, but right after that, yeah.
Right after.
Yeah.
So we'll actually ratify
Thank you.
first.
Thank you.
So for anybody that's watching, sometimes people become impatient. Now that we've reached a tentative agreement, the question will be, when would we see the increase? Well, it has to be ratified by the board, it has to be ratified by the membership of CCA. We have to submit the plan to the state for final approval. The state has to send us the money, and then we have to then distribute it to employees. So it'll take, in all likelihood, a couple of months to get to that point. But nonetheless, very proud of everyone involved in that whole process.
Awesome. Any questions for Mr. Broski or anything at this point? Awesome. Mr. Bickner, would you like to lead us through
Sure.
the policy? for
I
this
just
workshop?
handed everyone a copy of the draft of the policy 1.14 for the sales surtax for the Citizens Advisory Committee. I had sent it out to everyone, and the red markup are things that were sent to me ahead of time, and I've added those in with some changes to try to make it more clear. I would add, I'll point out that in A1, at the end of the sentence, I'm going to add generated by the sales surtax, which will clarify and make that clear. Under A4, on the second sentence, after department, I'm going to put in the word staff, so that makes that more clear. I had no other comments as to the first page, which is A1 through 7. And on the second page, A8 through 10, I had no comments. On B1, you can see the red line that I put in. The last sentence, or the last half of the last sentence, says all of whom shall be business partners within the county but are not doing business with the district. There has been, that was with regard to those appointments by the superintendent. I think the superintendent may have some thoughts about that. Again, I've discussed it. So I'll yield to you.
Yes, sir. If I could, for the sake of the board, I think that'll be challenging, the way that's currently written as business partners that are doing business within the district. I think it becomes confusing as to who they actually are. I have no problem implementing any policy that the board, decides upon. I just think for the sake of clarity, and I'm not really sure as to the response of people that will want to serve on a committee, and so my concern is you kind of narrowed me into a smaller group of people. I would also, later on in the policy or somewhere in the policy, it interjects, the board's going to vote on these folks anyway, so you're going to ultimately have say as to who they are. I would prefer it if we struck that line out to provide me the maximum flexibility to find the people to bring forward on this committee.
Take it out completely, or?
Yeah, I think.
How about if we change it to existing business, community, and faith-based partners? It gives you, and I think the thought is, I represent Fleming Island, you live on Fleming Island. If you're picking people there that are, residents, and I am, now Fleming Island has more representation than the rest of the community, whereas if yours are just, the business community, one from Oakleaf, one from Orange Park, one from Keystone, now it's geographically spread out, or it's like someone who's doing business with us, like Orange Park Medical Center does the nursing academy, ViStar Credit Union does all those academies. What's the one in Keystone?
Vulcan and Clay
Does all those
Electric,
mentors,
and of course the district office is in Clay Electric. I mean, it's throughout the county, but my thought is I would like to see them, that your selections would be different geographical areas, like whether it's a business partner or whomever, so they're, like Ms. Carrickus is saying, they're not all from one area. So in other words, if you pick 3 people, one's in the north, the south, you see what I'm saying?
But it could even be, a faith-based member. It doesn't have to be someone who's
that's
doing an
correct.
academy
I just wanted to
with
be
us or anything in that.
throughout the district, not just in one location.
So clarification on what this recommendation is. I read it, first of all, when I saw 3 active committee members and 1 alternate, I thought, okay, wait a second, this committee's growing. And I understand the need for an odd number. Totally thought that immediately when I saw 12. I thought,
And that's because last
And
month
that's
we changed
exactly.
it to from 3
And
to 2.
and I'm not trying to take anything away from you, Mr. Superintendent, but I was thinking, well, since we are representing all of the districts, does he have to, do we have to allow 3 for the superintendent, or can we simply allow 1?
Yeah.
Just say 1 and 1 alternate, that way it stays odd.
I thought 1.
It stays smaller.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take any power away from you in that, but there's really none in it.
Yeah.
And it says, all of whom shall be business partners within the county but are not doing business with the district, is incredibly confusing to me. Because I was looking at this thinking, faith-based partner, they're always gonna be doing business with us.
Right. I
You
think,
know, always.
and my thought process with that was not somebody that, Thomas May Construction that we're paying to build a school, not somebody who has contracts with us that would have insight into future endeavors that could benefit them personally.
Correct.
But,
Yeah.
and I don't know how to word that to prevent that from happening.
Well, and part of me, and here again, if we go down to 1 person versus 3, It also takes away that, I mean, three's a lot,
Yeah.
when you're
Ms. Bullock,
talking about a small
You could also
group.
keep him at 2, like the rest of us, and then just require a supermajority vote for things to pass instead of a simple majority. And that would solve the problem of having an odd number or an even number of members on the board.
If I could, I'm totally good with going down to one. I just don't wanna be pigeonholed into, you know, that kind of wording. If the board feels better about 1 versus 3
Yeah.
and can allow that wording to go off, I would appreciate that, because, you know, I think that the challenge is gonna be finding people committed to the committee like others, and I'm totally good with that, if that's good with the
Well,
board.
and as a policy, we can change this in the future. I mean, as we see areas
Right.
grow, and if we find the need for more to be on, to represent, we can always increase that at some point in the future for a policy review. The other side of that, though, is here again, if with one, Clay County's big, but it, you know, it depends on people who are willing to volunteer their time.
Yeah.
So,
So we should give the process a chance to work.
Mhm.
And I thought 1 or 3 also. I didn't want to seem like I was trying to be restrictive and take the superintendent out. That's why I recommended we top it up to 3, but I'm fine with whatever the board is fine with, so,
so I will recommend, or I will suggest that we do 1
Okay.
and 1 alternate, and then take that last sentence off to alleviate,
Is everybody in
Yeah.
agreement with that? If
Then
there's
that's-
not, then I need to see a show of hands for anybody who says no to that.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, and I'm gonna change that to 1.
Ms. Gilhousen,
I'm fine with that.
okay, Ms. Bullock? Okay, so we're fine with that.
And remove the
And
last
honestly, some
Yes.
districts don't even have the superintendent, it's just a committee appointed by the board, so, like you said, you're fine with it either way, perfect.
Okay, so I'm gonna reduce that to 1
Okay,
and take out the last sentence.
and then in number 2B2, when you said review and ultimately board approval of the applicants as a group.
Okay, I have a suggestion for B2 that, because I've had a couple of people talking about, most recently Ms. Sheriff this morning. The last sentence begins with the word nominees.
Yes,
So I'm thinking take out that entire last sentence and add the following, which would make it easier. The committee member search and application process shall be published on the school board website. That way, it's flexible, you can add to it, you can take away from it, you can do whatever you need to do to make it work and not make it part of policy. Because you may find that when you advertise it on the website, you know, that there are going to be applications taken, and this is the process that you'll follow, and this is the process that we did. Then it'll be simpler to manipulate. When I say manipulate, I mean change for the good or the better, depending on how it's working. So that would be my recommendation for that, is just take out the last sentence. That makes the first sentence clear, makes the second half non-existent, and then the rest is on the website for that paragraph.
great.
I
So,
think that makes sense.
so then the process that we would go through then, someone wants to be on the committee, they go to the website,
Right?
they pull the application, they complete the application, it's filed on the website.
Yep.
That gives us the opportunity then to say, okay, I want to know who in my district has applied. And they will need, hopefully will include the district in the application, so I can say, I'm looking for District 4, and I can look then at anyone who's applied in District 4. So when it comes time to select a member or 2, then I can go to that group of applications. That, I was confused by all of that as well then. You know, wait, at what point do we get our names and have the opportunity to view them and, you know?
The process, the way
Talk
that
to
you're
them.
describing it is what's done in Brevard. They have a form that actually you can manipulate and change on the website, which is one of those where you can fill in the blanks, hit send, and it goes to where it's supposed to go.
Perfect.
So
My-
if we have IT able to do that, which I'm assuming that they are, I'm looking for IT, he's not here, so I'm gonna say,
I'm glad.
he can do it.
Ethan, you can do that.
So that's what I'll do, and I'll put that together, and I'll put that 1 sentence in. Does that work?
So my thought with the procedure was, like we did with the Citizens Advisory Committee, we posted it on the website for a 30-day period. All applications were sent to Terry Dennis, which I would be fine if that was the case. And then Terry sent all of District 1 to me,
Yep.
all of District 2 to Ms. Clark, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
We have our applications to look at. We choose the ones we want, we send it back to Terry. Terry compiles the list, brings it to the board meeting for us to vote on.
Got it.
So that, I thought that was a little, Mr. Bickner's
Add
suggestion is very good, I
I
think.
got it.
District 4 needs to add those.
So that takes care of number 3. As to number 4, number 5, there was.
Wait, I had something on number 3 still, that took care of number 2.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Okay, so number 3, I thought, if we, first sentence, each officer nominating committee prospect shall consider the, it says professional background in
Mhm.
determining the I think it should say, shall consider the applicant's background in determining the qualifications of prospective candidates, but is not bound in their choice of nominees by any need for a specific background. And I think, take out the professional, because I was a stay-at-home mom. We all know I didn't go to college. I wouldn't qualify for that. I don't have that professional, educational background. And I don't want us to eliminate anybody that would really like to be a part of this.
Absolutely.
And so I think
Absolutely.
if we changed professional to applicants and then specific, I think that sounds better and it's more inclusive.
Mhm.
And then I think the next sentence where we have, prospective members shall have no direct or indirect conflicts of interest in contract with the board or a financial interest in any projects that are funded by the sales surtax. I think we should add, or any other district funds. Because remember, anybody doing business with the district in the amount less than $50,000 is not a contract that comes to the board. So I think that should be added there.
But if you add, or any district funds, that then goes into the, and correct me if I'm wrong, that goes into the internal accounts then for
It covers
schools?
all funds.
It covers everything. And the example that comes to mind whenever I see, no contracts, no nothing, is the snow cone syrup guy. He's a parent at Argyle Elementary. He's got, no, not cone ice, this is a guy who works in Duval, and when we would get syrup for snow cones, I would drive up to Commonwealth and pick up gallons of syrup and bring it back to Argyle. Found out that the person who manages that place is a parent for Argyle. And he's got 2 kids there, and he was like, hey, let me know, and I can bring it and save you the trip and whatever. And I was like, oh, and front office worked with him. Well, that now takes him out of the mix. And I'm thinking, oh, but he would be a good guy to have if he was interested in it. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm almost hesitant to say any contracts, because there are a lot of small contracts out
Right.
there. Lots and lots and lots of them.
But it would
That's just
change
one
district
school.
funds to capital project funds.
Capital project funds would be one thing,
So
but
what-
if you
that
say
works for you?
general
That works,
funds
Mr. Bickner.
involved.
Okay,
Excellent.
is everybody in agreement with that change? Because I'm good with both of those changes.
Yes, yes.
That works.
Applicants versus professionals.
I have a question on number 3.
Mhm.
I hear what you're saying, Ms. Karakis. What if we just strike that first sentence?
Yeah,
I
why-
think as a
Yeah.
board, we're
There shouldn't be
capable
any-
of
yeah,
making
I like that.
selections of
I like that.
appropriate people.
Yeah.
I think less is more when it comes to
Keep it
policy.
simple,
Yeah, I
yes,
agree.
I agree. Do you get that, Mr. Bickner?
Take out the first sentence?
Yeah.
Everybody
Yes.
want that?
I'm
Yep.
good with
Ms.
that.
Clark, any
Yeah.
concerns so far? Got it?
Good catch, Ms. Gilhousen.
Okay, that is out.
I have one other thing on the application itself. I would like to have mailing address and also physical address, because I know that somebody might have a mailing
box.
address, that's correct, and it may be not in the district, so I'd like to have a physical address and a mailing address.
Where'd the application come?
That's just the
That's
one from our
the
Citizens
district
Advisory
advisor,
Committee.
yeah.
We don't have to use that.
Yeah, that was
All right.
just,
And,
I'm just, I hadn't seen it before, so I was looking at,
Hasn't
the
been
reason I
around
didn't
for a
Yeah.
post one is because I didn't know what y'all wanted to do with this. And I'm kind of with Ms. Boas.
Would you send that
could
over
put
to
one
Mr.
on there
Bickner?
that's Fill in the blank,
Yeah.
hits in and it's gone.
Yeah.
But I can use that as a guideline.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
thank you.
Pretty straightforward, and just as, do you want to include a business of some sort?
Well, that's what I have on the other one, is it, whatever the business.
Because, I mean, that way we would know, I mean, that doesn't
I
have
would,
anything in
instead
there
of
about
saying
what
business,
their
I would put employer.
employer,
And that
whatever.
way,
Mhm.
you know, if they work for a
But if they say
company,
self-employed, and
maybe you put a
it's
clause, if self-employed, please disclose your
Yeah.
name.
whatever, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's, yeah.
Next page, which covers the remainder of C, or all of C. And D, the only change that I've had suggested was next to the last, or the third from the last sentence after the word positions, where it says shall nominate successors to both positions. I've had it suggested that I insert following the procedure set forth in section B above. Just points back to where it came from.
For the committee
work?
members.
E, for officers and organizations and committee meetings. I had no comments on. And quorum I had no comments on. Sunshine and public records laws I had no comments on.
I had something on E,
Officers?
officers and organizations, E1. And I was just concerned about the secretary of this committee being responsible for taking the minutes
I
that now
agree,
will be.
that's a big responsibility.
I'm sorry?
I agree, that's a big responsibility.
That now becomes a public record of the district, and
Right.
so I would like it to be
Someone from the.
whoever the liaison is, which I know is going to be, one of the liaisons will be the assistant superintendent for operations. I'm not sure if the chief of staff is going to be a liaison also. Someone needs to make sure it's on the website, it's, posted, there's a room booked and all of that, so I'm not sure who you will appoint, but that person should probably be responsible to make sure accurate minutes are taken. And so I thought, if you change that last sentence to say, the secretary shall conduct, coordinate scheduling and other procedural matters with district staff on behalf of the committee. I don't know, it's kind of like that, I don't want the volunteer to be responsible for the minutes,
No, we want them to be there as a volunteer. We
Right.
want them to be in an advisory capacity. We don't want them to, it sounds
Right.
silly, but we don't want to give them a job that they have to follow through on in that respect.
So I'm not sure if we want to add a number 2 in there and move number 2 down to 3 and actually say that the superintendent's designee or chief of staff shall serve as the district liaison to the committee and shall take the minutes or whatever. I don't know if we need to get that deep into it.
I would add that to number J, ex officio.
Okay,
Ex officio members, yeah, yep.
yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Okay.
So just delete, have a chair, vice chair, and then delete the secretary.
I think that's
You're saying
appropriate.
two different things.
Well, I mean, if we're
Yeah,
putting in an ex officio
we don't
member
really need a
as the
secretary.
secretary,
Right.
or you could say, secretary CJ ex officio members,
Yeah.
if you need to put that
So
in there.
you don't want the committee to have a secretary, have the committee just have a chair and vice chair or president and vice president.
Yeah,
I think
because
that's
the, yeah,
Then an ex officio member being the
That's
secretary.
Right.
perfect,
Does that
yeah.
work?
Yeah.
That's
that's
what you
good.
have for the board.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have an
well,
ex officio.
that's what I thought you
I
were
like
saying,
that.
that if it's coming
Yeah.
from the superintendent's office, then that would be
Yeah.
ex officio. Yeah.
Sorry, Terry, we're putting more on your plate, but you were so
Well,
good at
and
it last
doesn't have
time.
to be, it doesn't
Sure,
have
yeah.
to be Terry per
The
se, it
chief, the
could be
designee.
Whoever.
Yeah.
someone from Bryce's
Whoever,
organization or
and you
whomever.
could move it and switch it,
Mr. Foster, you need
Somebody who's really made you mad this week.
Someone on the naughty list.
Mr. Baker has a.
So who am I gonna list there? Is it gonna be the chief of staff?
No,
We've already got the,
I would
Oh.
just put superintendent's designee.
designate, please,
Superintendent's
yeah, because
designee.
that's, I mean.
And that can be anybody, it's a
Yeah.
broad term.
Okay, does
She's
that,
got a few things on her plate now.
I know we use that term throughout policy. Do we need to define the definition of the superintendent designee? Because I know it's different, like when we're talking about money, his designee can only be,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Now, Mr.
that-
Bickner, what do you think? I think we're
I
probably
think we
fine
leave
with,
it open, but
it's broad, it's open.
the only thing that we did with other things was make superintendent's designee in writing, so that there's no question, because everybody says, well, I've got it in writing, but I'm not gonna be there, so I'm gonna hand it off to Ms. Bullock, and she calls and says she can't be there, so she's gonna hand it off to Ms.
Right.
Nora, and pretty soon it ends up with the lunch lady or the bus driver is gonna be at a meeting, and it's gonna be signing off on a contract, because they are the designee by proxy. And so I've made it so there are no proxies in voting, because we're trying to get rid of the idea that you can just slough this off to somebody else. So I would say if you're gonna have a designee, it needs to be a non-delegable designee that's in writing.
So would you prefer to just put the chief of staff and have this fall?
Really,
Sorry, Terry.
I think it's up to you guys. I mean,
It's up to you how you want to do
And,
it.
you know, I don't wanna speak for Ms. Dennis, because Ms. Dennis does a wonderful job, would be more than willing to do
Yes,
this.
she does.
Right.
But I think as long as the superintendent's office is responsible for producing the minutes to the board is what we're trying to
Right.
accomplish here. So I think just the superintendent's designee, because I'm not sure if it would be Ms. Dennis or another staff member. But clearly it's under the supervision of the superintendent to make sure that it's accurate.
Even if it was Ms. Honora, she does a great job with minutes.
That's, I mean, well, truly.
And she doesn't have.
I like that.
Raise your hand,
No,
Bob.
she
Raise your
needs
hand.
more
Okay.
things to do.
She's hiding behind a plant over there.
I think she volunteered.
She doesn't have near enough to do, so.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I'll put
I think
superintendent's
This'll keep her off the
designee.
streets.
Superintendent's
Y'all work
designee
together. I'll
works.
put
That works.
superintendent-
Does that work for everyone, Ms. Fuller?
So,
Sounds good.
all right.
Okay, so that was officers and organization.
Right.
Almost done. Sorry.
I don't have anything for committee members or quorum, sunshine law or public records. Under reports and recommendations, there was a suggestion for a number 4. I'm gonna let Ms. Karakas take that one.
See, I was up last night, right?
Yeah.
I was just kind of concerned about how the committee is going to ask us questions, and I thought we could add a number 4 that said, and it's totally open to changes and suggestions, so I'm just putting my idea out there. The committee shall have the ability to question the board by sending a written question approved by the majority of the committee to the board chair. Such question shall be placed on the next board agenda for review and discussion by the board and superintendent. And my thought is, it gives the committee the authority to shine the light on something that they're not happy with or satisfied with, that they want us to address. And it kind of keeps us transparent and keeps it in the public. And there's probably a better way of wording that, but I want us to make sure that if they have an issue that they really feel strong about, that it makes it to our agenda for us to discuss in the public. And so, Mr. Bickner, you probably have a better way of.
I like the way you put it. I'm gonna get you to hand it to me when we leave, and
Okay.
I may brush it up.
I
a
kind of
little
went
bit,
aside the page, down the side
Yeah,
of the
that's
page.
fine. That's the way I do things too. So,
Okay.
does anybody have an objection to doing that? Does that work?
No, I-
It would be sent to the chair, who would then make sure that it was placed on the agenda,
agenda.
just for discussion. It wouldn't be an action
Right.
item, but that way, the public is aware of what the committees, they could be happy about something, but if it's something that
They
they
can
want
just
brought
bring
to
it
the
to
light
the-
of the public, they need to have the opportunity to make sure that they can get on our agenda.
See, and this is where, this is the thought that I have. This is really the only, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is really the only public committee that we have established. Is that correct? So why
Since the
not?
citizen advisory,
We give CCEA the opportunity to speak. We give CESPA the opportunity to speak at each board member, or each board meeting. Why couldn't we also give the chair or vice chair of this committee the opportunity to speak?
So they have a placeholder.
So they have a
They will
placeholder, and if
quarterly.
nothing comes up, I mean, you know,
but they
there
will
are
give a
times.
quarterly presentation. Mr. Bickner had that in here somewhere, didn't you?
I do.
Quarterly
There is
presentation.
one other issue with that, and Ms. Clark brought it up, and I was gonna direct us back to it.
Mhm.
Under A6, where it says the committee shall advise, counsel, inform, brief, and illuminate the board, district staff, and the public on findings, results, and performance of its duties. Information provided to the public shall be through quarterly and annual reports which are initially made to the board.
Mhm.
Information shall not be provided to the public through social media, the press, or any other channel which bypasses the board and superintendent.
Right.
I felt very strongly about that paragraph simply because I don't want somebody tweeting stuff out because they're mad at you or you or you.
Correct.
And so they're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna do it, they won't listen to me, and then they inflame the ire of the public, and you get a whole bunch of people that start sending emails. Now, Ms. Clark is rightfully concerned that because this is a commission or committee that's supposed to be representing or making things clear and transparent to the public, that there is some means of communication.
Mhm.
So it might be that what you're saying if we added that in some way, would take care of, Ms. Clark, would that take care of your question?
Yeah, I think we need clarification on when they can do
When
social
they can
media.
talk.
You know, if
'Cause-
it's already been passed and
Good.
it's not an issue to
Right.
clarify.
I like most board members, I don't like surprises, and I
Right.
know that nobody
Yes.
wants to read something in the press for the first time. You wanna know about it ahead of time, as does the superintendent. And so that's why I put it in there, so that someone doesn't say, okay, I'm mad at the way y'all are doing things, I'm just gonna go straight to Facebook or straight to whatever.
What if instead of saying that they shall not provide to the public through social media, what if we say they shall work collaboratively with the district?
How do you interpret that as that,
And you
how do you
know,
interpret that as limiting somebody without question?
in all honesty, we won't be able to police something like this anyway. If somebody
Somebody
is on
puts it
that
out
committee
there.
and posts some nasty stuff on Facebook, then it's probably grounds to remove them, but they're gonna just continue posting stuff, right?
But
I
I'm
mean, how do
looking
you
at
enforce
it,
that?
yeah, I'm looking at it on the other side. When there is somebody out in the public that's not clear and creating a problem, we need to give the board members leverage, or the committee members leverage, to be able to clear it up and stop the rumor and put the truth out. But, I mean, that's the whole point of this committee, is that most people voted on this.
But how about here we're talking 11 people, right?
Right.
If we could perhaps, and I hate to tie anybody's hands, but perhaps say to the extent that any public declarations from this committee would come from the chairman or vice chair as designated, whatever. That way, we don't have multiple, and we also, even when, you put it out factually, it still gets misinterpreted.
Should it
And,
maybe have to be approved by the school board attorney or something before going out?
well,
I don't wanna make it too cumbersome, because I
Yeah.
think you also
Correct.
need to keep in mind that these are volunteers, and part of serving on a committee is that, I don't know how to say it other than it's part of your resume, it's part of, you know what I mean, it's an opportunity to have a stake in something
Mhm.
that's
Right.
bigger than yourself, right? So it gives them, and I don't wanna limit the benefit to them from serving on this community by, or serving on this committee by having those relationships in the community. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah.
Because they do have a right to speak to the business that they are
Right.
in charge of.
And then we want them out there saying.
Right,
You know,
absolutely,
they're spending where they're supposed to, and,
Right.
we want the positive.
right.
Could we encourage them to use the tools that Nicole has set up
You could, or you could say,
in communicating
That's
with
good.
What if you
the
said
community?
social media, press, and other channels of communication regarding committee business, something along the lines of it being in collaboration with the district's
Right.
communications
Correct, yes, that would be,
people.
that way,
So-
it's not blatant, oh my God, I hate this committee, I hate these people, but I mean, it can happen.
Set an expectation without creating,
And we
like you
want,
said, a law that's
Right.
you
And
can't
the
really
bottom-
enforce.
and the bottom line, we want it transparent.
Right.
We
Right.
keep saying
So-
that,
so
but we
maybe-
do want it transparent, but if
We don't
it
want them
goes through the
careful.
proper
Right.
source,
Yeah.
certain channels, it can still be transparent, it can still come from that committee. It doesn't have to have Nicole's name on it, doesn't have to have the superintendent's name on it, it's coming from that committee.
So maybe we could do something on the website that would be an update from the committee on, but it doesn't have to be in policy. It could be part of our procedural thing or something.
Is that possible? Okay.
okay, tell me how you want this to be.
I'm so confused.
I am too.
Mr. Bickner, tell us what we're talking about here.
Give us
No.
the.
Well, I like the idea of a quarterly presentation that Mrs. Bola recommended, I think.
Which is required in.
Right, but I also like the idea of a question being submitted to the board if there is an issue that could then be placed on the agenda as a discussion item.
Which I've added,
Okay,
and you're gonna give me the language.
I will.
And then the other thing, the note that I've just made based on what Ms. Clark and Ms. Gilhazem said is information shall not be provided to the public through social media, the press, or any other channel without collaboration with the board and superintendent. Is that what you're getting to?
Without collaborate,
Don't do it without collaborating first.
right, with the board and superintendent, and, maybe adding an and through the communications office of the district.
I like that, but then I also feel like at the same time, I would expect community leaders, and I wouldn't expect
Right.
bad social media behavior from community leadership.
And I think we just made it hard that they're gonna feel
Yeah.
like they can't post something unless
Right,
they have
until they run it
permission
from
from
the channel.
5 board members and superintendent.
Right.
Then look at the
How do we do
sunshine law
that?
though too. I mean, if it says, an advisory committee of the school board, the advisory committee is subject to the Florida sunshine law.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
as soon as somebody breaks sunshine and says, hey, we just discussed this, it hasn't been approved by the board yet, but, you know.
Are
and I
we
mean,
gonna provide training to them on what the sunshine law?
Well, that was something else I was gonna get to in just a minute.
Mhm.
Because I would, like, again, I just wanna take it back to the fact that these are community leaders,
Yes.
and I think they should be treated that way. And
Some
I
of them
don't,
will be community leaders, some of them will just be, as Ms. Carrico said, it could be somebody's, you know, mom. So there will be community leaders, I would expect, but I think they're gonna be, out of 11 people, probably 3 or maybe 4 that are high school educated or junior college educated housewives or house husbands or whatever. So we can't say that that's the way it's gonna be. I don't believe that's gonna pan
Well,
out.
I don't have a problem with, I still think the moms are gonna be just as respectful, whether they have a college degree or a
Right.
doctorate.
right,
And I think, you know, you had made the comment before, Mary, that we've had committees, can't do this,
Mhm.
committees in the past that you've started and people have fallen aside, not wanted to
Right.
participate.
Right.
And the whole point of people voting on this, I mean, they knew in the wording,
Mhm.
they wouldn't have opportunity to change or yay or nay anything, but they had monitor oversight. And we want to make it as simple as possible, and when I saw the sunshine law, I really had to think about that being in there. But A6, I mean, when you do the media, we don't want to scare them to death either. We want them to be able to be open and professional and share and transparent, so.
and I would say, I would wait for it to be a problem before you create a policy about it, because to me, that's not my expectation. I would not expect somebody who's part of this committee to blast the district on social media. That would be rare.
They're there to
I would
clear
think.
it up.
And I think that if a situation were to happen, that a phone call and a conversation could be had without having to create a policy.
Yep.
So I don't know. To me, I'm with you on that. I feel like that's kind of heavy-handed and unnecessarily restrictive.
We want them to feel comfortable and able to share, and I really feel whoever it is through the selection committee.
So in that same light, if I could add to the conversation, you know, one of the things that I've always tried to espouse to people is that we shouldn't wait until a board meeting in order to have a question. We should be answering those questions along the way
Absolutely.
and solving problems. It shouldn't be that we're waiting for this grand moment once a month in which to bring a topic up, and that's the spirit of collaboration that the 2 board members spoke of. So, you know, and just kind of listening to the conversation, you know, my suggestion or my advice would be the posing of a question. That's an ongoing collaboration between the committee, the district, its liaison, the assistant superintendent of operations, and perhaps we shouldn't like designate it like it's like that's the only time you can ask questions. We should be asking questions
All the time.
the whole time, and if they're gonna be on the agenda anyway, that's the opportunity for public forum and, you know, to say what they wanna say, just like every other, you know, organization does. So that's my 2 cents.
I understand Mr. Bickner's concern.
I do too.
We all do.
Right.
What if we change that last sentence to say,
Okay?
it is recommended information shall not be provided to the public? I'm on A6.
The first page.
Oh, A6.
A6, first page, the committee shall advise, counsel, inform, brief, et cetera, And then of its duties, information provided to the public shall be through quarterly and annual reports which are initially made to the board. And it can even be, I mean, we could even say monthly, but officially we should make it quarterly, most definitely. And then it is recommended that information shall not be provided. Now,
Now you've just restricted it entirely.
correct? Or do we want to just
I
get
would
rid of
just-
that last sentence
That's what I think we should do, is strike that last line.
and take our chances?
Do you think what?
I agree that we should strike that last sentence.
Strike information shall not be provided.
And we could put at least quarterly and annual reports.
I'm sorry?
We could put,
Minimum.
Just
Oh,
above
minimum, yeah, well,
Minimum.
shall be,
I don't think they're going to want to meet monthly.
oh, no,
And
no,
there
and
may
they're
not
not
be
gonna
enough
want it, but they
information
don't
to
have
report
something to
monthly,
do.
so I think quarterly, you
Yeah.
know, is good. But I still feel strong about them having the ability to submit a written question if it's something that is an issue, instead of just touching on it when they have their presentation, because
Oh,
when they give a
yeah.
presentation, there's not gonna be any discussion. You know, how we
Mhm.
listen and we thank and we move on. So
Right, right.
I still feel that the part about the question, I think that, especially if it's something they want to shed light on, and it's then a discussion we can talk about at a
Do
general
you want to
meeting in
give them a
public.
process for placing an item on our agenda? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yes, I'm saying that if they have a question, they submit it to the chairman, and the chairman will place that item on the agenda for board discussion only.
Well, maybe that needs to be a separate thing that we talk about,
Add a number?
committee access to board agenda. And then, or maybe that needs to be in our agenda policy about how this
Yeah.
committee can
I think-
submit items.
I've already said, go ahead and put it under reports and recommendations as a number 4.
Yeah, I thought
Right,
it should go in
right,
reports and
right.
recommendation as number
Right.
4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be there, but then going back to the policy regarding,
Right.
what do you want to drop that last sentence altogether? Do you want to?
Well, look, you've been quiet, what do you think?
Well, I think of course they're gonna be, when they're at the committee, they're going to be asking those questions and things.
About the social media part of it?
Yeah.
Let me pose one more solution. That you said take out that whole last sentence.
Yeah, but
Take that
Go
last
ahead.
sentence out and add the following. Members of the board shall openly communicate with board members and superintendents within the parameters set forth in the Sunshine Law, and public declarations by the committee chair, or committee may be released by the chair after notice to the superintendent.
You wanna add and board?
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear all of it.
Public declarations by the committee may be released by the committee chair after notice to the superintendent. That's one of the other things that was raised by the 5 of you somehow. And I know that because I wrote it down.
Mhm.
I don't write down what I'm not. So, either one of those. One encourages open communication between
Mhm.
board members and superintendent and committee members. And the other one encourages the committee chair to make public whatever he wants to make public.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to avoid is surprise, gotcha stuff,
Yep.
which makes nobody happy and everybody angry. So,
True that.
and I understand
I'm
that
fine with that.
we're all professionals and nobody will do that, but they will do that.
They will do that, exactly.
How does everyone else feel
It
about
sounds
that?
good. Did Ms. Bullock,
Yes, it does. I like that.
Ms.
I
Gilhousen?
like what you just
Yep,
read.
what you just
So
said.
get
You've
rid
got
of
that written down, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So get rid
Ms.
of the
Clark?
last
Yeah.
Oh,
sentence.
I'm sorry,
So
Ms.
that we
Gilhousen?
would still be striking that last sentence
Yes.
about social media and
Is that
replacing it
correct?
with what?
Correct.
It
I've
sounds
stricken
so
that
much
whole
more
last sentence.
professional,
There we go.
the
Very
way it's
good.
worded.
Yes, yes. And it
It's a better
doesn't
feel
sound
to
like
it.
we're nitpicking on a
Right.
particular
Right.
thing.
Right.
Ms. Clark?
as long as that last sentence is.
And Ms. Karakis, you said yes?
I'm on board.
I've
Okay,
stricken that last sentence. Okay.
okay. Mr. Rickman?
The last section,
Yeah,
under
thank you.
ex officio members and district liaison, the only thing I would change, you see the changes I've made.
Mhm.
The only other thing I would add is the number 3, which makes the secretary an ex officio appointee superintendent's designee.
Right.
The only other thing that I was going to suggest or think about, because I'm thinking about it, I ruminate at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm sitting at my computer and thinking about who's going to answer their questions. Do you want to put something in there that I can provide responses to questions or advise or train or educate them somehow in what they're supposed to be doing? Because I can tell you that I don't expect they're going to come pre-wired on what Robert's Rules for Small Boards means. I don't think they're going to come pre-wired on how to conduct a meeting. I think that it's going to be some flailing around. They're not going to understand the sunshine. If I put in there, they'd have to qualify. They're not going to understand public records laws, and they are going to create public records that are going to have to be maintained somehow. It's up to you, but somebody's got to give a hand.
You
Should there
sound
be
like
some kind of handout put together
I
that,
can do all of that.
that
and
touches
then-
on it, and then
it needs to be taught by you, Mr. Bickman.
maybe
Because you're the
you,
profession, you're the,
Well, or I can put something together and then put something in policy that makes it available for them to call. I have that.
right,
I think that would work better.
right.
And if they need me to come in and talk, I'm happy to do that.
do we need to say specifically in our policy that an initial meeting of this committee will be each year, whenever it's, started, whenever it's refreshed, whatever, it will include an instruction by the school board attorney, something to that effect, thereby having the opportunity to have it all in writing, but then also having the professional who knows the Roberts Rules, who knows the Sunshine Standards, who knows all of that.
I think they'll be more comfortable reaching out to you with their questions if they've had the opportunity to meet you.
Yes,
And you have personally extended that
Yes.
invitation to
I
them,
agree.
that if they have questions, they can call.
yes.
Okay.
And then, any of the technical questions obviously would go through the
Right.
operations area.
So like if they wanted to meet
Because they would
with,
have that,
you
yeah.
know,
And
have
that
Susan
ex
come
officio
in, or,
would be
you
there.
know, any staff come in, that would either be handled by superintendent's designee or
Right.
assistant superintendent for
Is that,
operations.
It works for me, if it
Okay.
works for you. But it's
What
not
else?
included in my
That's-
job description, and I don't want to step outside my lane. So,
well, we just added.
we don't even need to add it. I'll just, based
Yes.
on what we have here, I'll put it in the policy.
It would make sense for you to be the person to do that, so that if there were ever any questions regarding the sunshine, if there were any questions regarding anything that's happening within the committee and the parameters of that committee within the policy, you would be the person to be able to, we could all probably answer it. 9 times out of 10, we'd go, I have to check with Mr. Bickner. And it would make sense for them to be able to call on you as a committee as well,
That works for me.
and say, come on over and talk to us for 10 minutes before, yeah.
I'm just trying to shorten the process for a
Mhm.
problem that arises. My ego is not sitting out here wanting to do it.
Right,
So,
right.
Okay.
That
I'll
would
put
be very
in-
much appreciated.
I'll put that in there as well.
Thank you.
Ms. Bullock, you have 7 minutes.
No, I'm good. No, I have one question, actually. I just want to make sure, Bryce, are you comfortable with all of this? Because you're the operations person who's going to be there, and I want to make sure that you feel okay with all of this policy as well.
Yes, I know, thank you.
I did send it to her, and
Oh, good,
she and I
perfect.
spoke about it.
Thank
briefly
you.
yesterday,
I appreciate you doing that too, Mr.
so.
Baker.
Anything else?
I think you did a good job,
This is
thank you.
wonderful.
You
Thank
You started with
very,
nothing
very
and came
much.
up with this.
Well,
so
I
this
didn't
was
start with
great.
nothing. I started with things that Bryce gave me. I had New Falls policy. I had input from Frank Upchurch in St. Johns County, who's, I have to say, probably one of the most brilliant lawyers I've ever known.
Very cool.
Not brilliant in the sense that he knows everything, but brilliant in the sense that he's a deep thinker, and he brings things to light that most people don't think about. And I had Brevard County, Paul Gibbs down there helped me. He gave me some things to think about. I looked at their policy for Lawrence, and Alachua I looked at. So it didn't start as a blank slate. Figuring out how to construct the house, I already had some lumber that had been sent to me by other people. So I appreciate your confidence, but I never do anything alone if I can help it. I have 67 lawyers in my law firm.
Collaboration is
good.
key. Thank you,
Good.
Mr. Bickman,
Thank
so
you.
very, very much. Any other further comments from you for the workshop?
I have none, thank you.
So now we'll be voting on this on Thursday,
Voting to
advertise?
advertise.
Okay.
So I'm going to have it to bonding before 1 o'clock, because it has to be published 48 hours ahead of time, and 40 hours, 1 o'clock. And that's where we'll go. I'm gonna make all the changes in the next hour.
Sounds great, thank you. Mr. Brodsky, any further comments? Questions?
none.
Got it? Ms. Bullock?
Just Merry Christmas to everybody, and thank you all for the lovely, I mean, I feel like I'm just, woo, so
Yes.
it's very nice, and the plan is
Well loved,
gorgeous, thank you,
well
Mr.
loved.
Brodsky. So, anyway, so I wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Ms. Gilhousen?
Same from me, Merry Christmas to all, and I think I'm gaining 5 pounds just looking at this.
Ms. Clark?
I just wanted to say I was very impressed with the grand jury report on public safety. I mean, there were a couple of things in there that we've all, we've all had real concerns about. So I know we'll address all of that later, but in the meantime, once again, just like I said at the board meeting, I pray this is the year that everyone comes back, no auto accidents, no disasters, and that everybody has a wonderful time, so.
Awesome, thank you. Ms. Karkas?
This was good discussion today, and I'm happy with what we've come up with, and I just thank everybody for, contributing to it and working well together. Thank you for all the Christmas goodies, and other than that, Merry Christmas. I'll see you all on Thursday.
Yep, we will be back on Thursday at 1 o'clock. Just a comment to those of us within the room and around the room, thank you to each and every one of you for all that you do, all that you've done this year. You have truly stepped it up, and we don't say thank you enough. So thank you to all of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. Take a break, enjoy your family, hug everybody that you can possibly hug, because Lord knows we all need it. On that note, we'll see you on Thursday. The meeting is adjourned.
And thank you everyone for